Hi, everybody. We'll just wait a second to let you come on. Very exciting time. Exciting convergence. All right, so we'll get started. I am really grateful to have the opportunity to do this, not only again, but right now. We are at the pinnacle of history. We are moving toward redemption faster and faster. It is confusing. It is turbulent. That's a big part of the reason why I put this together and why my amazing guests, including Rabbi Simon Jacobson, who is here right now, agreed to come on. These are the most important times, and it's up to us to really play the role that we're here for, which is the topic of this call today. Your soul came down for these times. So Rabbi Simon Jacobson is the author of the best-selling book Toward a Meaningful Life, which is a William Morrow publication that's been embraced by hundreds of thousands of people worldwide and translated into 11 languages. Rabbi Jacobson also heads the Meaningful Life Center, which presents to people of all backgrounds the universal teachings of Torah as a blueprint for life. For over 14 years, and this is how we met, he was responsible for publishing the talks of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, heading a team of scholars that memorized and transcribed entire talks that the Rebbe gave during Sabbath and holidays when recordings were not allowed. So incredible responsibility to hear, to remember, to footnote, to write up, to bring to the Rebbe. So Rabbi Jacobson had an amazing and unique privilege to work in that kind of close association with the Rebbe, discussing the things that the Rebbe had said and what the Rebbe's actual intent was, and questions and answers. And he published more than 1,000 of the Rebbe's talks. He is one of the greatest scholars and most sought after speakers in the Jewish world today, having lectured to diverse audiences on and offline, including over 300 radio and TV shows, all on the timeless teachings of Torah and their application to the psycho-spiritual issues of our times. And I will add with special and unique connection to the wisdom of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So Simon, welcome, and thank you so much for being back here again. We haven't missed one.
My honor and pleasure, thank you. And it brings shivers to me when you describe the work that I did, because it was quite awesome and humbling. And I feel a great honor to be able to be somewhat of a channel, like all of us should be, of these divine and universal teachings. So thank you so much for having me. Great to be here, these unique times.
Yeah, and we have 55 minutes for this call also, because I wanted to get the entire summit into the last days of Nisan. So we'll make the best use of it. And there's already a question from somebody in the audience about non-Jews. So I want to come back to that, how non-Jews can participate, and we certainly can and must. But I want to just start by saying I did not plan. I planned this for it came out. I did not realize what the date would be on the Hebrew calendar. I knew the month of Nisan, but it didn't even occur to me that tonight is Koach Chavches Nisan, the 28th of Nisan, which I'm going to ask Simon to explain the meaning of that briefly, and also to say that we met in that context. I used to come to your office. We've mentioned this before, but it's just so close to me. I just listened to a video of myself being interviewed on what happened back then, just like an hour ago. And it just brought me right back to the time where I would come and the Rebbe would speak and you would edit with your team, and then you'd print up this white pamphlet and it would be in your office in that wooden rack, and I'd come pick it up to learn with my two much more scholarly friends to understand what the Rebbe wanted us to do. Like, what's the next hot off the press leap in human evolution, and what is our job? And that's where I learned hot off the press, because I would pick up the pamphlet and it was warm, it was hot. I picked it up as soon as it was ready. So that's where you and I met, and it's we should be meeting at the culmination of this. Well, you explain what is Koach Nisan, where are we, why are our souls here today, and let's not forget to talk about the role of all human beings, because this is definitely not only for Jews.
Only in 55 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. First of all, yes, I remember those days well, and I hope it's still hot off the press. It's still hot in your hands, and you're passionate about it, which is very touching. It's 32 years since back then. And we have to keep it warm and hot and relevant. So let me put it into context just briefly. And I'm very glad the questioner asked about non-Jews, because in my biography that you read, that's a critical piece that I think we need to add, as well as the context of our entire discussion here. Let me just say this about the Rebbe himself. You know, you and I both know the Rebbe. We assume and we take for granted the Rebbe as a great leader, but not everyone necessarily listening here may know who the Rebbe is. And even if they do, it's always worthwhile refreshing it for all of us.
Totally.
To put it in simple terms, the Rebbe, who we refer to lovingly, the Rebbe means the teacher, the leader, the spiritual leader. Like when we see Moshe Rabbeinu, the Rebbe, Moshe the Rebbe, the first, essentially a man of God, a visionary, was born in 1902. And we talk about souls coming to this world. His soul was sent to this world, as every good leader, to be able to identify the challenges and opportunities of our time and present a spiritual approach that channels the Torah that was given at Sinai thousands of years ago, what we call before the divine blueprint of how to address these challenges and these opportunities. So his message is not just for his community, the Rebbe's message, and not just for Jews, it's for the entire world, because every person on this earth was sent to this world. No one is here by accident. We're all part of a cosmic plan. Every piece is indispensable, literally, like musical notes in a large composition. So you, anyone listening to this on earth, no matter who you are, no matter what background, no matter what faith or no faith, man, woman, child, you have a critical role to play in the unfolding drama of the divine plan of existence. And what is that plan? And I'm paraphrasing the Rebbe's own words, when he assumed leadership in 1950, back right after World War II, that history is not going without direction. History is going toward a destination. All of human progress, all human efforts, every act that we do has been directing and guiding the world toward a better place. What we sometimes refer to as the Messianic age, some call it utopia, some call the age of Aquarius. The names are words. What it means is that we are charged with a mission, not just to be bystanders and onlookers and observers, but to actually play an active and proactive role of transforming the material world into a spiritual home. A world where there is no longer tension between matter and energy, between matter and spirit, by taking our physical lives, literally our daily routines, and turning them to something that is extraordinary, by infusing and revealing within it the divine purpose in everything we do. You eat a meal, you're not just eating it to indulge or to sustain yourself, you're eating it to get greater strength, to be a kinder and gentler person. And for that, we have a blueprint. It's called either the Bible, the Torah, which became actually the blueprint, not just for the Jewish people, but for the entire world, the basics of morality and ethics that defines a civilization. So in each one of us, if you look at through history, you'll see in the last few hundred years especially, things have evolved and accelerated to the point of freedom being today a cherished value. Go 400 years ago, freedom, Bill of Rights, that you can do whatever you wish and that you're not subject to the control of a monarch or another authority is a very new thing. But the Torah has been advocating it from the beginning of time, that every human being was created in the divine image. And as such, we have the responsibility to reveal that divine within us and within everything around us. And that was the Rebbe's calling, which was so compelling to me and to thousands of others, as he defined that we are now at the end of the process, meaning we're about to cross the threshold into what we would call a Geula world. What does that mean? A world that is not displaced and experiencing dissonance and disconnect and aimlessness, but a world that the physical world is directed toward its purpose. Just like a business needs a mission statement, each one of us and the world in general, we have a mission, and that mission, to put it in different terms, is to turn this world into a beautiful divine garden. And we are coming close to the end of this process, which means a time that will be dominated by world peace, eradication of famine, and we will have harmony within diversity of all nations, and all of us will be recognizing that there's one higher God, one higher force that's greater than all of us, and each of us has our unique role to play in fulfilling that purpose. And that's really why we're here. And that's what compels Shifra Hendrie, what compels me and so many others to come together to figure out what can we still do? What do we need to continue doing to arrive at this higher state of consciousness and awareness? You, Shifra, use often the example, which comes from Hasidic thought, that every transition is like a vacuum or a void between one paradigm and another. The egg has to crack in order to give birth to a new reality. And we are lucky and blessed to be able to be part of creating that new reality. And that's exactly why we're here, to discuss that. And then we'll talk about each one of our soul's mission more specifically. But that's a somewhat of an overview of who the Rebbe is, what his mission is. And 32 years ago, on the 28th of Koach, the power of Nisan, this whole Hebrew month of Nisan, the Rebbe declared then very clearly that I have done everything I can, now do everything you can to finish this process, which means that tipping point that affects the critical mass and transforms the world and erupts in a tremendous revolution of goodness and kindness and virtue and connection to the divine purpose of our lives.
And divine consciousness and divine power, I might add, because we're not meant to stay the same way, and things are already shifting so much for so many of us. So thank you. That was a beautiful overview. I have to just, in full disclosure, it's easier for me if I tell people where I'm at. I'm the power of this day, the summit, the convergence of the time, and the fact that it's leading into Koach Nisan, the 28th of Nisan, which inaugurated as Simon just explained. I'm feeling like it's hard for me to actually be grounded in my body. It just feels super intense. So I think I just wanted to share that. And I want to ask you, in all candor, like we expected it to happen any second. I know I did. I'm pretty sure you did also. Maybe not, but I'm pretty sure that you did. Or at least it wouldn't be 32 years down the line. So I want to ask you how that affected you, how you evolved in your understanding, and where you see us now, also in the context of what's happening in the world, because you're talking, and rightfully so, about a world of goodness and kindness, unity, this paradise, but yet what most people are seeing is the opposite.
Okay, so I hear two questions there. I'll answer them both.
Thank you.
The first question is, yes, I remember very vividly 32 years ago, but you have to also remember, as you pointed out, I've been working closely in these teachings and writings with the Rebbe for so many years, and I saw the undercurrent and even the direct theme was all leading. In other words, we're not just talking about being better people, but we're actually transforming the world in the process.
And what it means to be human. Yeah.
Right. And it was very logical, therefore, that when the Rebbe did speak that 32 years ago, tonight, when the Rebbe spoke about that we've come into the culmination and now let's just finish the job, it was inevitable. It wasn't like a shock. It was part of that process. So how I saw it was this: the Rebbe, a visionary of the highest order, is seeing a world. That's what visionaries do. They see something that we don't always see with our naked eyes. We see the dots, but we don't always connect the dots. The Rebbe connected the dots, demonstrated how the fall of the Soviet Union, the technology developments in politics, and so many other areas of humanitarian efforts and so on, are all part of the dots of this new consciousness, new era. And he's sharing that with us and saying, we are now at that threshold. You must do something. I did whatever I can do. I've given it to you. I've clarified what direction we should go, where we're at, and so on. So I saw it completely as a responsibility placed upon us as a gift. Not, God forbid, the Rebbe was abrogating his responsibility as a true leader. What does a true leader do? He empowers his disciples, his students. And that's what he did. My feelings were that we did not do what we needed to do, either because the Rebbe was a man ahead of his time and saw things we were not yet fully ready to incorporate or integrate, or because we're just still accustomed to the old psychological model of doing things, maybe a shift here, a shift there. But the Rebbe, as a true leader, wanted to propel us into a whole new attitude. And I just will say this, I'm not saying it to be negative, that I point to myself and I say that I really get it. And frankly, 32 years later, I hope that I have not in any way stopped my efforts, and I've only accelerated my efforts. I constantly see this as my and our responsibility. So I can't tell you what's happening up in the divine worlds. I don't know God's exact plan, but I do know that the words were stated. I have no doubt that it will happen. I have no doubt that every day is closer. I cannot explain. The Rebbe himself, I should say, when he said sometimes, so why is it not happening, even though we're right there? And he said, in Yiddish, he would say, I actually do have, I indeed have a question. He left it as a question, not as an answer. My answer is, if I was given a job, did I do my job? And I have to say very honestly, yes, I wrote books and I've taught. I'm talking personally now.
Yeah,
but I don't
you.
think that there's still billions of people out there that have to be reached. And that's why we're doing this summit and all the other efforts that you do that I commend you for and that I try to do and others. And I simply look at it as the battle continues. I mean, a good battle, a spiritual battle. And we have to just never let up and forge ahead. And if anything, we learn from the past what we haven't done yet to do more. That's my general attitude. So I don't let myself go into the world of disappointment and what if and so on. I say, you know what? Today's a new day. What are we going to do today we never did before? That's my approach.
Yeah, it's obvious that the world is moving forward. And I mean, prophecy is being fulfilled all over the place. And also, to me, one of the huge signs, and we'll be talking a lot more about this and exploring it throughout the summit. But so many people are experiencing inner shifts that were unpredictable, like the ability to see energy or to perceive, to feel deeper dimensions, to have an inner knowing, to feel like you can directly talk to God and almost hear answers and, whatever, to be able to heal at a different distance. These are all things that have emerged since then, not to mention this technology didn't exist. I don't know if, sometimes I think back to, that when the shluchim, the emissaries of the Rebbe, wanted to have a conference call to discuss what to do. That happened a couple of times, and it cost them many hundreds of dollars, and they had to arrange all kinds of things to a conference call. Who knew anything about that? And now we're just like talking to each other totally casually. Everybody in the world knows what Zoom is right now. Exactly. So these are all massive changes on the ground.
And look, there's a prophecy from Isaiah, maybe the most famous of all. There will be no longer evil in the world because the world will be filled with divine knowledge as the waters cover the sea. Exactly that you said. You can have 8 billion people right now listening to this summit without extra cost.
You'd have to upgrade your servers, but yeah, that's true.
Okay,
maybe not even.
I'll put it this way: technology maybe still has to catch up, but potentially it's there.
It's probably possible. I'm sure it's possible. I just
want to address the second half of your question.
Yeah, thank you.
The fact that some people, and sometimes you can look at the world and see setbacks, and we know there are tragedies, unfortunately, and there are both in Israel and abroad. So I think we have to look at everything with two sets of eyes. When you look at anything ostensibly, it could seem negative, but you could also see it as part of a transition. And mentioned before, cracks. Every transition, and I would define this age that we're in right now as an age of disruption. Totally. Technology, the internet, Amazon has disrupted the whole commerce model. In politics, there's tremendous disruptions in the United States, in Israel, everywhere, and other places in the world.
Yeah.
So disruption can be seen as very disturbing, as demoralizing, or it could be seen as a shift, a paradigm shift that's opening up the world to a new birthing. And I think that's how we look at it. I remember a talk the Rebbe delivered on Purim in 1987, and he said, the fact that I'm stating that we're closer than ever to Mashiach, to Geula, how do we reconcile that with some of the negative events in the world? And the Rebbe said the negative events are now coming to the surface. So that's also a sign of clarity. It's not undercover. So the fact that you see or feel pain is not always a bad thing, because if you don't feel it, it's worse.
Right.
Because then you're numb to it. So the fact that we're seeing certain things, it's like the end of a process. There's always going to be some upheaval, because that's what change is about. Change is never comfortable, but we should know it's going toward As someone told me, who suffered a tragedy recently, unfortunately, they said to me, in the end, all will be good. If it's not good, it means it's not the end yet. So we need to see life as a narrative, frames, and never get stuck in one frame and say, this is it. It's not it. It's an ongoing narrative that continues to unfold, and we have a tremendous role to play. And our attitude, our positive attitude, actually draws down positive energy.
So what do you think the Rebbe had in mind when he said, open your eyes and see Geula, see Mashiach and Geula? What does that mean to you, to open the eyes? Is it to see the positivity? Is it to see the prophecies unfolding? Is it something deeper as well?
I'll use an example from science and technology, since we mentioned it. When you look at any object, you see, let's say, a table, a chair, an apple. So today we know that what you're seeing is only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it every elements lie molecules. H2O, everyone knows. The molecules of hydrogen and oxygen is what defines water.
Right.
Beneath molecules, we know there are atoms. And beneath atoms, we know there's subatomic particles. And as you go down the rabbit hole, there's subatomic, and who knows how deep it goes. Opening your eyes means that beneath it all lies spiritual energy. Spiritual energy is not somewhere in the sky. It's right within us. Like we have a soul within us. Everything in existence has a spirit. And today, this does not require faith. Basic technology tells us this. All these forces are invisible. So when the Rebbe said, open your eyes, you say, open your eyes, not to the outer surface of things, but look at the integrated or the unified narrative that's unfolding. That if you look closely, or even not so closely, you see changes. There are things today that never existed hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. It would be considered. And so opening your eyes means a visionary is telling us, look deeper, take the bird's eye view. Don't get caught up in the pettiness of one detail. There's a big picture. See the forest from the trees, etc., using all these different metaphors. And what the Rebbe was seeing was this unfolding narrative. People are receptive like never before. This was not this case. Talk about the Jews. Talk to the Jews. We were being persecuted 80 years ago. We were being murdered, massacred. Today, we have the ability to be here in a summit and share beautiful words of kindness, of God, of warmth, of love with everyone, and people can share with us. It's a very different reality. And all that is part of opening our eyes. So I think opening our eyes means not just physically opening the eyes, but looking at things with wisdom. It says the eyes of a person are on the head, your mind. Understand the events not as random accidents, but actually as part of this unfolding Geula narrative.
It's really, beautiful. It's really interesting that you mentioned also that people in 80 years ago weren't receptive, because you also mentioned earlier that that when the Rebbe gave this cataclysmic, transmission to us, a lot of people didn't get it. And that was how I ended up getting active, because I didn't have any role. I felt I used to walk by 770 on Shabbat and go to the botanical gardens with my babies. I never even walked in to hear the Farbrengens until after that changed my life. That one moment changed my life. But I was expecting the whole of Crown Heights, of Lubavitch, to be like in a total uproar, and everybody, getting together and discussing what do we do to bring it home. And I went to 770 the next day, and there was like nobody there. And so it just ended up pulling out of me things that I would have never in a million years imagined that I had. So I think that I just want to echo what you said. And if you want to say anything else about it, that there's a huge receptivity, like from one moment to the next, people are more, because of this disruption, I think people are more like in the past, people would be like, oh, life is always going to go on the way it always has. That was intrinsic, that we were wired to that. And now nobody can actually believe that anymore. And it keeps getting more weird both in positive and, in the cracking. So that does seem to really open people up. So if you have anything to say to that, and also maybe this is a good time to talk about why everyone's soul came down and what are the unique differences in the soul and the unique differences in the mission.
So first of all, don't dismiss your visits to the botanical garden, because the Rebbe's first discourse was actually come to my garden. So
Wow.
you may not have known it, but maybe that's what prepared you
Maybe.
to take that garden and now try to turn the whole world into a botanical garden, you know. Okay, that was just a thought that came to me when you mentioned that. Because
I'll
look, at
take
the
it.
end of the day, a garden is a beautiful place. And we know that every field, every garden can also bear weeds. And our job is to be the gardeners that cultivate and nurture, that allow the flowers to grow and eliminate the weeds. So
Of ourselves, that, like, I just want to say again, before just one more moment, that people should realize that anything you see me here now, that wasn't possible then. That wasn't in the cards. That was never happening. It wasn't in the remotest radar. And, you know, once you start to step up, and this is, I'll just let Simon take it away after this, but I just want everybody to realize that whatever your limitations are now, they're not real. You just believe in them, so they become real. But when necessity or will, desire or passion, you know, or purpose pulls you forward in some way that is not in your comfort zone right now, or even maybe in your ability to imagine, which happened to me so many times, you reveal more of yourself in a way that you wouldn't have ever been able to believe. And it can happen level after level. Yeah. Okay, please.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect segue to talk about the souls. I think this is critical. I say this to myself, to everyone, to you, to everyone listening. We have two choices in life all the time. Either circumstances and others are going to write your script, your narrative, or you're going to write it.
Wow. Say that again and give people a chance to hear that, because that is the most important, maybe, statement of all.
You have two choices in your life every moment. Either other people and circumstances are going to write your script and narrative, or you're going to write it. And it's like anything in life. When you're traveling on any road or traveling in an ocean, if you are the navigator and the captain of the ship, you know where you're going. So even when storms come or some setbacks or other things, but you know where you're going, you know where you're headed. So that compass, that GPS gives you the direction and also the fortitude to forge ahead. If you don't have a direction and purpose, what do you think will happen? The waves, the tides, other people's agendas will distract you and pull you off course. So that's why it's so critical. And I felt that this title of this opening of the summit is so vital. Why are you here? Why was I born in the year 1956? Why were you, Shifra Hendrie, born whenever you were born? Why is every person on earth born in the 20th or 21st century and not in the 19th century, not in the 15th century, not in the first century? And the place you were born, that's not an accident. That's because you were chosen, your soul specifically was chosen to be placed in this world. Just like an astronaut is sent to space, not by accident, there's a mission. You were sent here with a mission, and collectively our mission, and I'm now paraphrasing again the words of the Rebbe, collectively our mission is to finish a process that our parents and our grandparents and our ancestors began, each one contributing their role, but we are now carrying the baton in the last leg of this marathon. So cumulatively, we have tremendous power, like the analogy of the midget that stands on the shoulders of giants. And when you understand that, deep from within, that your soul was sent for this purpose, nothing is more important. Your work, even your family, which is a critical component in this, obviously, but it's all directed toward not just, I'm going to bring up a nice family, I'm going to do good work, I'll be a kind person. No, you're finishing the last touches of a masterpiece, which is through our good deeds, our kindness, our efforts. Look, I don't want to embarrass you, Shifra, but look, let's take Shifra Hendrie as a perfect example. She initiated this summit. She initiated earlier summits. She's committed her life to this mission. She can describe why, but bottom line is I know her for over 3 decades, maybe 4 decades, and I've seen this consistently. A person who has committed. She could have just been like anyone else, just sitting around waiting for something to happen, and obviously be a good, kind, and compassionate person. But this means a person that's on a mission. And when you're on a mission, means you understand that your soul was sent here for this purpose. So if this summit is to mean anything, it is to try to, not to create, but try to ignite the spark that's already there within you, the mere fact that you exist, in this time is because your soul needs to be here right now. And it needs to be here right now because you have something to do that no one but you can accomplish. That you must know that. And that drives everything else. So even when circumstances may sometimes not be exactly as we planned them, sometimes they may even be ostensibly something that may be a negative thing, but it doesn't change the course of our mission. We're still here, and we're given blessed every morning with new, fresh energy to do what? To bring the Geula, to bring this consciousness in our personal life, into our family, into our community, and by extension to our sphere of influence in everyone we can reach. And that is why you see people, even though they may have dealt with challenges or even tragedies, God forbid, and God should protect us all from that. How do they have the strength to move forward? Because they have something stronger than the tragedy or the circumstance. They have their mission, and that mission is what drives them. And they know my soul is here for this reason, and that nothing can change that. That's a gift from above, and that you were chosen, and no one else but you can do the job that you need to do.
I mean, for me, yes, so true. And it brings up so many more questions. For me, it wasn't even that I overlooked tragedy or went past it or was able to whatever, because I had a mission. It caused my mission. Like for me, the galvanizing thing was we can end tragedy. Geula is a world where there is no more tragedy, where there doesn't have to be suffering in order for growth. We're in this paradigm that we are on the way out of, and the longer we wait, or the more we react to it, hide from it, bash it, get upset about it, feel victimized by it, the longer we're stuck in it. And yeah, that's how I see it, and that's what's been motivating me. It's not that I'm so, oh, I'm so spiritual, I'm so holy. No, I want the different world that's been promised to us, and I want it now. And I guess I can't give up. That's because once you do get activated, even on a much, whatever the level is, personal transformation, you're going to stand for love in your family, whatever it is. Once you get activated and you see that you make a change, you make a move and it changes something, it's impossible to go back.
Exactly. And I would say this to everyone who's viewing and part of this summit and anyone beyond, try it out. Be proactive. Even this morning or this afternoon or wherever you are in the world, or this evening, try not just responding and reacting, but being proactive. Send a kind note to someone. Call someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Do some random act of goodness and kindness. Volunteer. Go help out a special child. You will see that you'll get back far more than you give. What does that mean? It'll build a certain element of confidence. And you see that you're accomplishing something. And it's not about feeling good about yourself. It's also about recognizing that you're needed. I think that many of us, frankly, subconsciously think that we're dispensable. We're like one more grain of sand on a beach.
Insignificant, right? Yeah, and powerless.
And what difference does it make? You look at
I can't make a difference. The whole world is so, and what about the billions of people that, have to wake up and I can't do anything about it. What about the governments? What about the corruption? Yeah. I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in. Please keep speaking to this. People really have to know that doesn't work like that.
And I think of it this way. And if you want a good example, we have close to between 30 to 75 trillion cells in our body. Trillion. And if one cell, God forbid, is extra or missing, or a mutation, look what kind of havoc it can wreak. A computer program can be millions of lines of code. Add one dot or take out one dot and look what happens. So don't think there's no such thing as quantity anymore. Size does not matter. It's a qualitative thing. That you were placed in this world, it doesn't matter if there's 8 billion or 80 billion or 8 trillion. It means what you need to accomplish, no one but you can accomplish. And you need to know that from within. It's not good to look at numbers. That's why sometimes watching media, to be honest, can be very depressing and very demoralizing, because you start seeing, oh, wow, look what's going on out there. Who am I? That's not how we should be thinking. We think every morning, what do we say the first thing in the morning? We don't look at the media. We don't look at others. Moda ani, I acknowledge to you, Melech Chai V'Kayim, to the everlasting King, that you've returned my soul to me. That's the first thing. As soon as you're awake, the first thing is you have a soul, and a soul is indispensable and is eternal and is immortal, and nothing can in any way weaken it if you commit to it and commit your soul expressing itself. And your body is a vehicle of that expression. Not your soul should be traveling where your body wants to go. Your body should be traveling where your soul wants to arrive at.
Right. So what about that question we had early on about the role of the non-Jews, the role of the Jews? You know, I always say to people that Torah is for everyone, God is for everyone, Geula is for everyone. We're in it together, which is obviously true. I mean, it seems obvious to me, but yeah.
Look, as I always ask people, the question is God male or female? Is God Jew or non-Jew? We know God is not circumcised. So clearly God can be limited and defined by any of the human structures of existence. So when you say God, you're talking about a reality that created us all. In that sense, every human being, for that matter, every cell, every fiber of existence has a divine force within it. So I don't know if this is the place to talk about the distinction or difference between Jews and non-Jews, but let me say this. What we're discussing here, Geula, is global change. And the fact is, the 8 billion people of this planet, there's only 14.5 million Ken Yirbu of Jews. That's, what is it called? 0.001%. So Geula does not mean a Jewish thing. It's a global thing. It's a universal thing. And frankly, every person on earth was sent here and created in the divine image. We're all children of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And each of us has our role to play. And each of us needs to build healthy families. And we want to bring love into our life and not deal with dysfunctionality and pain and trauma and so on. World peace, the eradication of famine, the other things Maimonides and the others describe the future of the world is a global thing. As a matter of fact, let me quote Maimonides. Right at the end of his book, his classic magnum opus, he writes that when the future will come, what will be? There'll be no more war, no more famine. There'll be no more avarice, no more jealousy, unhealthy competition, and so on. But the world will be filled, as he quotes Isaiah, with divine knowledge as the waters cover the sea. The world will be filled, not just the Jewish world, the world in general. And he says the entire business of the world will be not materialism, but knowing God, spirituality, higher awareness, higher consciousness. So it's clearly a universal thing for every individual. Now, of course, just like there's a difference between a man, woman, and a child, there's a difference between different types of people. Some people are more cerebral, some are more emotional, some are more, we'll call it back-end people, some are more introverts, some are more extrovert. So different roles we play in this unfolding drama. But that's already distinction between individuals. But if you talk about overall, this is a universal message that is equally relevant to everyone. I mean, I'll talk about myself. Just recently, talk about disruption the last few years, and especially the last few months. For example, my reach through videos and YouTube has literally skyrocketed, and mostly are non-Jewish viewers who love it, who love this message, because it's not a Jewish message. It may come from
it's a soul message.
Torah, right, exactly, Torah sources, but I constantly see the comments, and I see that when you look, the fact of the matter, a spiritual message that touches a person's heart will touch every person, just like a song. It's not a song just for one select group, it's for everybody. It touches us all. And above all, it's meant to evoke and inspire and stimulate the spiritual mission that each of us has, Jew, non-Jew, whatever title or label you want to define someone by.
Extraterrestrial. Yeah, whoever's in it is part of it. And I do believe that every soul who's here now came down to be part of it. I mean, I think that actually seems obvious.
But look at the messages we've been sharing here. I would say this is, everyone can listen to this and everyone can share it with everyone. There's nothing here, you know, if you're talking about studying here the laws of Yom Kippur or how to eat matzah on Passover, fine. These are laws perhaps that are unique to the Jewish people. But that's not what we're discussing. We're discussing the universal divine message.
Yeah, I actually was told by somebody, I don't know if I should mention a name, but somebody that you also know and respect, you know, whose father was, let's just say, the head shliach of Italy, that the Rabbi, when he asked for the Tanya to be translated in various languages, he asked that it should be translated in a very high academic Italian, because it needs this level of Torah needs to be learned by everybody. Everybody has the obligation to know God. Everybody has the obligation to reveal their deeper essence. Everybody has the obligation to be part of all of this ultimate transformation. And I love that you said that Adam, we're all descended from Adam. This split is for the purpose of our evolving mission, but we are all one humankind. That's where we came from. That's where we're going. So if you want to add something to that, please do, or whatever. And also, I don't want to end without talking about miracles. I would love to hear your take on what miracles are. I know that I was very gripped by a discourse of the Rebbe that I learned from the 3rd of Nisan from 1989, where he talked about the imperative for all of us to do miracles by our nature. He used that word over and over again, that phrase, to do miracles by our nature. So if you have anything to say about that, I'm sure you do. I think it's really important for people to understand what that is, because it's time for us to go beyond our identity and start to be supernatural, which is our nature.
Absolutely. And I will say, in my book, Toward a Meaningful Life, I have actually an entire chapter called Miracles.
Oh.
So if you need more elaboration, you can check it out. I'll begin with a story about, since we're talking about the Rebbe, a good way to honor him. So in 1960, a group of students, college students, came to see the Rebbe in a private audience, and they interviewed him. They asked him questions. One of the questions they asked him, they say, your Hasidim or your followers or your disciples say that you perform miracles. Is that true? And the Rebbe responded, he said, I can't take responsibility for what others say about me, but let me tell you, the concept of miracles is a very logical and scientific one. And the Rebbe gave an example. He said, look, when you see different phenomena, natural phenomena, imagine you can go into the engine room and rewire the inner wiring of whatever that phenomenon is, so that it will naturally change the actual phenomena, which is what scientists do all the time. You can manipulate atoms, you can manipulate energy, and we can create synthetic materials, all kinds of different realities. Technology is all based on some type of inner manipulation, in a good way, of the inner forces. So the Rebbe says, so basically a miracle is someone who has the capacity to go into that inner wiring. Then the Rebbe smiled and said to them, so if I inspire you to do a good act, that when you leave here tonight, you all will do a good act that you've not done before, we will have performed a miracle. That's what the Rebbe said. So miracles, people sometimes think of being a completely supernatural event, like if you suddenly saw the sea split right in front of you. That's true. That's a complete suspension of nature. But we're missing another point of miracles that we need to understand. This isn't just about sensationalism, about God showing us a magic trick. That of course God can do whatever he wishes. It's teaching us a lesson about ourselves, that don't think nature is as passive as it looks. Beneath nature lie forces that are far deeper than natural ones, miraculous forces. So in the words of the Baal Shem Tov, when he explained what's the difference between a miracle and a natural event, he said frequency. If the sun were to rise once in our lifetime, everyone would come out and there'd be camera crews and pictures taken. Look at this ball in the horizon rising. But since it happens every morning, we take it for granted. Who wakes up to the sunrise? We take it for granted. Right. So basically, nature is a bunch of miracles just repeated. So we need a new rush of excitement. The truth is, the greatest miracle of all is seeing the extraordinary within the ordinary. Let me ask you, you're a mother, I'm a father, and ask anyone is the birth of a child a miracle? Or is there a natural event? I was just thinking about that as we're talking about the sun. I was thinking the biggest one is we take it for granted. A person pops out of another person. Right, exactly. Think, a father and mother, and we have no clue how it works. An egg is fertilized by a seed, the conception. 9 months later, please God, a healthy child is born. Complete miracle. But because it happens so often, right now, both of us and everyone listening here, you in the last minute, you probably don't know this, you've exhaled and inhaled between 14 and 18 times. That's what a healthy birth breathes. Who even thinks about it? Then when you see someone, God forbid, on a respirator, and someone struggling to breathe, you suddenly realize, 1 second, every breath is a miracle. That's why King David, the end of the book of Psalms, he says, Kol neshama tahalal kol. We're talking about souls. Every soul shall praise God. So he says soul comes from the word neshima. Soul also means breath. Neshama, neshima. The God, divine breath. God breathed into the human body, and a living organism was created. So in every breath, a person should thank the divine, because every breath is a miracle. Every breath you take, every step you make. Yes, long before it became a popular song.
The tune is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the truth is, everything in life is a miracle. If you look at it closely, open your eyes and you'll see miracles. That's the Rebbe's words. Now, from time to time, there's no question, you actually see a miracle that can't be denied. That's just a suspension of nature, period, that no one expected this to happen altogether. But don't underestimate the miracles that are happening every second in your life. And that's very much part of Geula consciousness, recognizing, not taking for granted your life and seeing what's going on. You look at this. I'm here every morning. I'm born. Look at the health around me. Yes, there are difficulties in life too. We're not denying that, but life is a miracle.
Also, the fact that as the Torah tells us, we're being brought in and out of existence together with everything else in the universe at every instant. It's a little bit of a miracle right there.
Absolutely.
Like, do we exist or do we not exist?
But let's be honest, we take it for granted and we then assume it's a given. Look, when do people complain? When things are not working well. When things are working well, very few people say, oh, wow, it's great.
True.
Because we take it for granted.
True.
And that's part of the human condition. That's part of why we're here. We're here to awaken a sense of gratitude and a sense of humility and realize that life is a gift and a blessing. And are we using it to the fullest?
And our souls come down for that. Otherwise, they wouldn't leave their very wonderful place to be in this, what sometimes looks like a little bit of a crazy house.
If I could sum up the one thing that most struck me being around the Rebbe, that I worked for him for many years, and what touched me so much, and I could paraphrase, when I was right after Gimel Tammuz was 31 years ago. I'm sorry, Gimel Tammuz was
29.
No, it was 29 years ago. I'm sorry. 31 is
yeah, I just posted the video from for bringing about the 28th of Nisan, and I said 22 years ago. Somebody's like
32, right?
32.
Yeah, that's 39. Yeah. So Gimel Tammuz, I remember I was on a major interview here in America, and I was asked by the interviewer. He said to me, Charlie Rose, he said to me, so what was it like sitting at the feet of this great man? I stood at his feet, but the idea, sitting at his feet. And it was a live show, and I had to come up with a spontaneous answer. So I said, when you were near the Rebbe, you felt, and when you were in his presence, you felt not his greatness, but how much potential you have, and the great responsibility you have to do something with your life. With a certain sense of urgency and compelling sense. And I remember him saying to me, I wish I had someone like that. Many people talk about the Rebbe's charisma, his blue eyes, his presence, his whole demeanor. But the fact of the matter, the greatest thing that always struck me was that you're not negligible, you're not dispensable, you are critical to the picture, because your soul came to this world and to accomplish something. And something like that strikes you, especially when you're young, in your heart and soul, never leaves you, because that becomes the driving force of your life. That no matter what happens, you're here, you must live up to your potential. Look, what they say about great leaders is this: we see ourselves for who we are. A great leader sees you for what you can become. And I think this summit, and in general, opening your eyes, that whole approach is coming to discover why your soul was here and what you can become, the potential you have, the greatness that you can achieve. And this is not measured in quantity and in fireworks and in glamour and in glitz and sizzle. It's about the quality of your life and how you can impact even one person, 2 people, 3 people. And the fact is that you have that power. There's a tremendous concept that says that everyone's obligated to give tzedakah, charity, even a pauper. You could say a pauper doesn't have anything to give, because the Torah will never deprive someone from the ability to give. Everyone has the right ability to give. It may be a penny. It may be a minuscule compared to what a wealthy person can give. But there's no such thing as a person that's just a taker. Everyone is a giver, because everyone has something divine within them that they can give to another. And never underestimate how much you have. It could be a kind word. but you have to take initiative. You have to do something about it. You have to act. You can't just wait. We've been trained very often to just be around. Okay, let's see what happens. You know, like that joke they said, the guy said, I used to think I'm indecisive, now I'm not so sure. And the fact is that we have the ability to be very decisive, very certain, keeping our eyes on the ball and knowing that we have a real unique mission to fulfill. And that's really the bottom line.
Yeah, yes. And also on the topic of miracles and taking off on what you said about how everything is a miracle and how that consciousness is so foundational. It's also foundational for being able to actually create or co-create those extraordinary, uncommon miracles by our nature, like the Rebbe told us to do, because the more you realize that nothing is solid and that everything is God in a costume coming in and out of existence for a vast cosmic purpose, and that you are essential, that you are unique, and nobody can play your role, like Simon said, in so many different ways. That consciousness itself is the consciousness, that the foundational consciousness that disconnects us from the bounds of the ordinary and the laws of nature and our beliefs, and opens us up to what's actually possible, and we can start to explore it, level after level. So I think it's amazing that you said that. Also, there's a question. Somebody who came on late asked who we're talking about. So if you want to give just a little bit of a recap of who the Rebbe is for everybody. And first of all, yeah, we're talking about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I won't say any more. You take it from there, Simon.
Yeah. So I'll sum up what I said earlier, because also I want to make sure this is not parochialized. As you know, people hear the word Rebbe. What is that? What exactly is that? Is that for everyone? So let me just say this. We are all human beings with our subjective nature, and sometimes get caught up in the quagmire of our lives, the details. So God blessed us in every generation to send us a leader that sees the bigger picture as a bird's eye view, that has no ego, humble, completely dedicated to the cause. And his mission is to help us discover our mission. Really comes down to that in simple English. Moses, of course, is the ultimate epitome of the model where God chooses a man, flesh and blood, and sends him to redeem the Jewish people from Egypt. In Hebrew, Egypt, Mitzrayim, means helping us all free ourselves and discover emancipation and transcendence from our limitations. And in every generation, there's a Moses. In every generation, there's a Moshe. The Rebbe referred to, I lovingly and we lovingly referred to him as our teacher, as our master, as our mentor, the person who came to this world, 1902 to be exact, a son of and a son-in-law of a previous Rebbe, who was in turn a son of a previous Rebbe, in an unbroken chain all the way back to Moses.
Hasidic master, just in case people didn't get that, a Hasidic master, the souls
but then we
are down in the image of Moses. Sorry?
Yeah, then we have to define what Hasidic means. So basically, someone driven by a spiritual vision and mission, who is not coming with any of his own ideas, mind you. That's not his power. His power is that he understands how to take these timeless ideas, passed on in an unbroken chain from the beginning of time. Unbroken chain, literally. There's no pause in this chain, and knows how to apply it to the challenges and the opportunities of our time. And those that was blessed, who have met the Rebbe or have read and studied him, see that. I wrote a book, Toward a Meaningful Life, to try to capture these teachings, distill them in a way that everybody can read. So if you want to know more about the Rebbe, that's a perfect book to read. A little plug for Toward a Meaningful Life.
Yeah, and the link, by the way, to Simon's website and where you can get the book is, as well as his free gift and special offer, which we'll talk about in just a second, is under this video.
Right, and so the Rebbe you'll see, is a wealth of information and direction and guidance, and above all, inspiration and empowerment, teaching us primarily that we are in a time, a unique historical moment, where we're ready to cross the threshold from one paradigm to another. We'll call it from a more displaced dissonance paradigm of Golus to a Geula, emancipated, transcendent paradigm of higher consciousness, what we call redemptive consciousness. And this is what we talk about when we mean the Rebbe, a message for every person on this earth, literally, every man, woman, and child, regardless of religion, faith, race, creed, color. And that's part of what we've been talking about. I wanted to add one thing before, just another way of putting things, talking about being proactive. And the Rebbe's teaching, which is so much the Torah teaching, is to be proactive, always proactive. So we know there's the concept of mirror neurons, where we mirror each other. But the classic example is that when you see somebody about to, let's say, God forbid, close a door on their finger, you may even cringe, even though it's not happening to you, because we mirror each other. So I recently heard something nice about a farm boy who never saw a city before. He never saw mirrors. He came to a big mansion in the city. He walks into the house and he sees a big mirror. He looks into the mirror and he sees another child staring back at him, making funny faces. So he yells out. He says, "There's someone making funny faces at me." So the host of the house says to him, "If you smile at the child, he'll smile back to you." That's a perfect example of being proactive. When you smile, when you initiate kindness, generosity, that's the energy you generate will come back to you as well. This is lies the essence of being proactive in the kindness and goodness that we need to be doing. It just came to me that I thought I would add that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And again, are you the creator of the energy you're going to live with? I forgot the way you put it, but a bunch of people wrote it in the chat, or the victim of it. Yeah. So this has been amazing.
There's two choices you have, right? Either you're going to write your narrative, or others will write it for you.
Right. That's a nice way to say it. Okay. So very quickly, because we actually, there's now 4 minutes before the next call. So if you can tell people your offering, I know it's free for anybody, and this is linked under your bio or above your bio on the schedule page, themeaningfullife.com, 7 weeks. And if you can describe that in super nutshell, and also your course, Kabbalah of the 4 Elements, which you're offering at a $20 off with people using the code that's also written, Summit 2023. But this is all, you can find this all, you don't have to write it down. You can find it all right under this video and above Simon's bio on the schedule page.
Okay, so among our many different offerings, we made 2 special ones here for you. One is a free gift, which is 7 weeks to a better me. Basically using a Kabbalistic model, psychological model of how you can refine and develop your character traits, your emotional character traits, for going from the 7 times 7, 49 different aspects of your emotional spectrum: love, discipline, compassion, determination, humility, bonding, and dignity. So that you can find, that's a free gift. As far as the discount is on a course that I did a while back, which is called the Kabbalah of the 4 Elements, taking the 4 elements, earth, wind, fire, and water, and demonstrating how they are reflective of different spiritual personalities within us. Beautiful. And how we can grow. So you can find all the links.
Fascinating.
And, yes. At meaningfullife.com. Yes.
And find them under this video if you want to get the discount though. And you can go to Meaningful Life and check out everything else that Simon has to offer. And then so abundant, and including the amazing book. Okay, thank you so much. It is a little rushed, but it was so rich and so full, and what a time to reconnect and to launch this. Thank you, thank you, and thank you, and thank you.
Thank you very much, and God bless us all. May this summit finally push the envelope and bring the redemption.
Amen, amen. All right, so we're going to keep the Zoom on. So I guess, Simon, if you want to just
yes, I will. I'll bid everyone just a pause between one connection and the next.
Yeah. Be well, everyone. Yeah, this is the first time we've done it this way. It's a little bit of a learning curve here. Anyway, so if you take yourself off video or whatever, you can disconnect.